Hey everybody, welcome back to Nerd News Today. I'm Matthew, and today's episode, it's a little bit of a more unique toy review than we typically do here on the channel. Quite often here we're taking a look at mass-produced items from people like Hasbro, like Mattel, Diamond Select, Super 7, NECA, all these different places. But today we're going to check out a third-party action figure that I'm very excited for, and very optimistic that this might be the beginning of a whole new thing for me to start collecting. Today we're taking a look at Leon the Killer from Magic Toys. Obviously you never heard of Magic Toys, and you certainly have no idea who Leon the Killer is, but if you take a good close look at this, you will realize that this figure is going to be based on Jean Reno in the film The Professional. If you don't know that film, I highly recommend it. It's what gave Natalie Portman her real first starring role in a movie. It was also essentially the introduction of Jean Reno to American audiences, and it is an excellent film, highly worth watching. And to be quite clear, I never expected anybody to ever make an action figure based on that movie just because of the pure violence in it, a lot of the other very adult, mature themes in it that make it very controversial also. So yeah, the fact that somebody finally did this, I had to jump on this, but truth be told, it's very different from anything else I've collected in the past. Yes, it's a 1/12 scale action figure, but I'd say it's a lot closer to something like a 1/6 scale, just based on the look of the figure, the type of clothing that it comes with, because it has like actual fabric clothing, and just the sheer number of accessories and types of things that we're getting in here. It's very hyper realistic, but yeah, it's so different and so cool, and honestly, it's a professional, so I had to get my hands on this. So let's talk about this box real quick, by the way, and that's the first thing of note because this box is like so tiny. It is super duper compact. We've got this enormous figure of Jean Reno here from The Professional, which I'm sure Magic Toys did not license legally at all. It's just there, but hey, that's what you do in the business of unlicensed action figures. I do like what they did with the logo, though, really kind of making it their own thing. But otherwise, the fonts and that kind of thing on it aren't that exciting. What is kind of cool, though, is the fact that the back of the box shows you a lot of the accessories he comes with, and that's also what really got my attention when I saw this figure, was that this guy is loaded up with a lot of different things. And if it's your first time looking at this figure, you might be like, what are all those things? But yeah, we'll get to that. But if you're a fan of The Professional, you already know what the score is. So without further ado, let's go ahead and unopen this Leon the Killer figure and take a closer look at him from all angles. All right, here's our Leon the Killer in the box. I'm gonna give you guys a closer look at this one more time as well before we do this opening. So we're gonna do a proper unboxing today. I'm gonna actually open this on camera for you guys because I'm very curious how this is all gonna be packaged together. So here we go. Slide it on out, and all right. Here is how he's packaged. Very simple packaging, right to the point. Looks like we have 1 or 2 trays to cover him up here, so we'll go ahead and we'll pop one of these off. So let's start taking a look at what he comes with here, and that starts with a bag of hands. Okay, cool. We've got our Leon figure over here, covered with a little plastic bag to protect his face. We'll come back to him in a little bit. There's a knife that fell under here. I think that was meant to be what's over in this little pocket. Yeah, so there's a knife that's over there. We have some bolt cutters. We have a little vial, or actually I think that's supposed to be the glass of milk. Oh, that's the glass of milk. We have his plant. We have the actual milk. We have his weapons case, and let's see, it looks like, do we pick this up? Yes, this comes out. And underneath it, oh, okay. Underneath it is a ton of guns. Wow, okay. Let's make sure everything's there, because I noticed that something looks like it's fallen out of place here. Let's see, this is in there pretty tight. Okay, we can actually pull this entire thing out. So lots of trays here, lots of weapons. Again, I just want to make sure everything is here as it should be. Looks like things just got kind of thrown around out of place, but looks like we have everything here. All right, so let's go ahead, let's switch the camera, and let's take a closer look at our Leon, the quote-unquote killer. And here is our Leon figure now out of the packaging. Let's get a nice, good look at him. This is very impressive looking for my first time seeing this company. Our first look ever at a Magic Toys figure, and this thing looks enormous. And what's kind of cool too, you can see my hands right now. You can really get an idea of what the scale is of this figure and just how kind of surreal it is to have a figure that's like this photorealistic in the palm of my hands. Now I do want to point out one thing we have to do real quick before we really go any further, I think, is take a look at his hands, because if you're wondering why those hands were in the bag, that's because his hands are not attached yet. So we actually have to do that first. So let's go ahead and grab our bag o' hands, pop these on, and then I'll give Leon a quick rotation. All right, so let's go ahead and give our Leon a quick spin, and well, it might not be the most glamorous first initial look at this figure, because he is wearing that very long trench coat, and that covers up a lot of the details that we're going to see in this figure as we start going through him. Now, I know that a lot of collectors are going to look at this and think that this is not the kind of figure for them. And I know this because I see this all the time in like wrestling toy groups, especially how they'll say they don't like doll-looking figures or things with all this and that kind of look like the way that Leon does. But then these are also the same people that will say, I want to see a Mankind figure with removable clothing to make him into Cactus Jack. And what you're basically describing is the makings of a fashion doll. So a little bit of misguided thing from collectors out there that I want to point out, because I know a lot of folks see this and it just might not click for them immediately, but I think as we get into this, you're going to see why I think this figure is really cool. And that's going to start with the likeness here. So let's just start by taking a good long look at this face and ask ourselves, does this look like Leon, the quote-unquote killer? And for me, that's a big fat yes. I believe that this really, really does look like Jean Reno, straight out of the late 90s, right from Leon the Professional. Every angle of this is perfect. Every little nook and cranny of his face, they got it. There's a lot of little details in there. I mean, even some of the scarring he has on his face, his brow, the lines on his face, especially his lips, the nose. I mean, it's unmistakable for who it's meant to be here. So this likeness is pretty astounding. This is pretty wild stuff here. Even from the back of his head, I mean, you don't really see that a ton through the movie, but it's got some great detail, wonderful hair texture there. I think for my money that yes, this absolutely does look like Leon, although I feel like one thing's missing, but we'll get to that later on. That's because it's an accessory that we haven't quite attached yet. But let's spend some time talking about the outfit first real quick, and I also want to talk about the articulation. But as we mentioned already, the outfit is primarily this big trench coat, at least at this moment here. Although I do want to point out he's got some awesome looking shoes there, but we'll come back to those too, I think. But yeah, initially we do have this giant trench coat. It's what's under it that kind of matters, and I do want to test this out as well. I want to see how easily this does or doesn't come off of him. Because, spoilers, underneath his trench coat is all of his really cool assassin gear. So I'm curious to see how easily this comes off also with his hands. We might need to take them off. Most likely that's going to be the way we do it. But we're doing it so far, and all right, good to know. He does have really good articulation, which I'm going to also talk about in a little bit. And that's very helpful to getting this outfit on and off with very minimal hassle. And here is Leon take 2, now without the trench coat. You can see a lot more of the detail in his clothing here. This is really cool. Very excited to see this now for the first time in person. Very impressive too, the amount of stuff that they were able to add to this figure. And I'll show you guys how it looks from behind as well, which isn't exactly as exciting, but I think it's still really cool, the fact that it is, for the most part, fairly screen accurate. I mean, down to how it's all tethered onto his body. That's really cool. I think that they actually went that extra mile to do that. For detail that might not necessarily be seen by that many people, but it's all there. And I mean, even in fact, we'll kind of just scroll down his leg a little bit. You guys can see he even has this over here, which he can put a lot of his accessories into. We'll see those a little bit later on. Maybe we'll see them right now. I don't know. I'm really excited about this. I do want to talk about his boots for a minute, because I did mention that already. And these are cool. These are really nice boots. Again, just lots of good detail. I like some of the little weathering that's on them as well. Subtle shading. Just nice little extra touch to have those included there. Well, let's talk articulation real quick, and I do want to show you guys that he's got a lot. And one more time, just look how small he is compared to my hand. He is in the 6-inch scale, even though he does look a little bit small. I will just do a quick size comparison because it's even kind of bothering me a little bit, whether or not he's like in the scale. But the thing is, he's meant to have more realistic proportions, so he's not going to look quite as buff as, say, like a Jada Toys Fei Long figure. Even though this Fei Long looks a little bit taller, but not by much. He's a little bit taller. And likewise, next to a Marvel Legends Monet. So yeah, as far as 6-inch scale, he's there, but he does look a little bit small compared to these guys, and that's kind of interesting. And, because his proportions are more realistic, it doesn't really hurt. It doesn't really help him much either to kind of look up next to these guys, but yeah, he is 6-inch scale, just maybe a little on the smaller side. Well, let's talk articulation. So he has a ball-jointed head, which has a great, huge range of motion. It's not only the head, it's also his neck that is moving around. So, you can get a lot of real lifelike posing too with that. That's awesome. Let's see, he does have some ball joints in the shoulders. It feels like he might have butterfly joints in there too, which is very handy. He doesn't come with a sniper rifle, but if you had one that fits him, you could definitely have him do some stuff with it. Let's see, it feels like we have a double jointed elbow. I think we do. We have ball joints in the wrist. Let's see, the waist does turn. I don't know if he has a chest buck or not. Doesn't feel like he does, but the waist does have some wiggle, so it might be a little bit of one. We do have, like I said, some turning here. The pants on him are very tight, so it's hard to really get his legs moving higher, but he does have some leg articulation. Feels like he does have a thigh cut as well, and definitely have a double jointed knee, you can tell from that. and ball joint in the ankles. So this is excellent articulation. This is really like ST articulation on him. I wasn't sure what we were going to get with a figure like this as far as his range of motion was going to be, but that's excellent. That's really, really great articulation. So let's start talking accessories here, and he has a lot, as we already saw. I'm going to start with some of the less violent ones, I guess we'll call them. I don't know. We'll see how violent these things get. But I think it's most important first to get his very important plant front and center. Look at how cool that plant looks. That's an important part of the movie. Maybe we'll save that talk for another video one day if you guys want to see me go in depth and analyze the professional. But there you guys go. There is the plant, one of the most important elements of the film, and it's there. So happy it's there. It needed to be there, quite honestly. We also have a container of milk, which is meant to be New York City milk in the 90s, or at least maybe unlicensed milk. I don't quite remember if they tried to hide brands or not, but I will say this looks like it was pulled right out of the movie. Very nice, and it has tons of little details that are so small and tiny. It's kind of astounding how much they put into this thing here. Yeah, that milk is pretty amazing, but he doesn't really drink straight out of the carton. He's an assassin, but he's not a barbarian. So we also get a little glass of milk. Oh no, I spilled the milk. Well, luckily it's just in there, but look at that. You guys get a nice half full glass of milk, or maybe half empty. It depends on how you look at the world. We also get these bolt cutters, which I believe are going to be one of the things we can actually put in that little pouch we saw on his leg earlier. We'll try that out maybe a little bit later on. And no, they don't actually bend or anything. They are one solid piece, but they're really wonderfully sculpted. So good to have them. And then one of the last smaller accessories kind of starts to bring us into the violence. We get one of his daggers. We get a nice little switchblade here, it looks like. So we have some weapons already. So let me just move these things out of the way, because then we have one of his big important items here, and that would be this case right here. This is Leon's weapon case. He hides all sorts of things in here. It looks like it does in fact open, and oh, okay. Oh, that's fun. There's actually a little surprise in there. There's actually a bag inside it. More than one bag, actually. Oh, okay, cool. This is my first time seeing this. I didn't, I knew this thing had a lot of accessories. I didn't know how much was hiding in this thing, but so yeah, we can open and close that. I'm just going to leave it open off to the side. So we have two small little baggies with more parts of things in the film. Oh my god, okay, that's cool. I didn't know this was here. These are some of the grenades that we see towards the end of the film, and I think you can all basically know what to do with these. You can just attach them onto the inside of his vest over here. Wow, baggies full of tiny grenades. That's so cool. And then this, okay, I'm very excited to see this because I was wondering about this. This is a bag full of 6 additional hands. So I was wondering about that because when I first saw him, I was looking at this figure and I was like, oh, he only has these 2 hands and not really trigger hands. It's gonna be hard for him to hold all of his guns. As it turns out, no, Magic Toys had me covered. He's got a bag full of hands, different trigger hands, things to hold, probably his milk. That's gonna be fun to explore. But wait, there's more, because we have now a ton of firearms for our Leon figure. I don't know what most of these are. I'm just going to put them on the table, and you guys let me know in the comments what each and every one of these things are. But we got a few revolvers over here. We have what might be a Colt 45. I don't really know. We got another one over there. So just tons of pistols here, including some that have different attachments, like silencer attachments, I think is what's on these. Because after all, he is an assassin, so he's got to be decked out with the latest weaponry. So there you go. Wow, lots of guns that he comes with. But as I alluded to earlier, our Leon is still a little bit naked, because what we're missing is his skull cap, because yes, that is part of this. And to complete the look, his glasses. Really, it's an absurd amount of accessories that comes with this figure. Really, this is kind of wild here. So yeah, just loads of guns, things for his home, more parts to his outfit, and a ton of hands, which are awesome. So I think now I'm going to go ahead and deck him out in some of this gear and show you guys how it looks and give you a few other thoughts about this toy. So overall, I think this figure was worth the money, and it's definitely a really cool thing to have in my collection, but there are a few nitpicks among the very, very good. And let's go over the very, very good again. The fact is that he has so many accessories, so many hands, awesome looking cloth soft goods outfit. Those are epic pros. I mean, he looks really good. The downside are some quality of life issues mainly. So number one, be very careful with the joints. I did have some trouble getting the hands in. Not that they were too stiff, it was actually the opposite. They were almost too loose at first, and you have to be very careful getting them in there. Once they're in there, they're fine, but really I recommend you heat up your joints as always, and just really take your time. And if it's not fitting, don't get frustrated, don't try and force things, because really, if this toy breaks, you're done. You're not going to get a replacement. I doubt this company has other replacements to give you. I don't think 5K Toys has replacements to give you. So if you mess it up, it's pretty much done for good. Hate to interrupt, but I do have a quick update speaking of the hands. So as I was doing this review and taking all the photos, one of the very last photos I took would be swapping some hands. I'm trying to show it on camera, but yeah, the hand actually did kind of sort of break a little bit. So it's kind of just currently jammed up inside his forearm, and I'm doing my best to get it out of there. But yeah, basically part of the joint essentially did snap off. That's what's in my hand here right now. It's a little hard to see, I know, but yeah, so this piece is actually meant to attach into his forearm, but it's just being very difficult. So with a little bit of work, I was able to get it back in place, but yeah, you guys can see just how tenuous that joint is. So really, be like super careful with this guy, because that could have been game over for this toy. The problem is resolved, but it could happen again. So yeah, just be very mindful when you do anything with these joints. The variety of accessories is very nice. Getting them into his hands takes some time also, but again, just be careful and you'll be able to get everything in there for the most part. Standing him up straight is not that difficult at all either. He doesn't have any peg holes in his feet though, so if you are having difficulties keeping him vertical, you may want to invest in a very, very small dowel stand, but I wouldn't recommend it because it will be quite noticeable. The only other key issue here, unfortunately, and you're probably seeing it in some of these photos, is his hat. So while his glasses get on with no problem and fit very nicely, his stupid hat is the worst. It is unfortunately the worst accessory here. It takes a lot of effort to get this thing to stay in place, and even then, it's not going to be in the right position. Now I've seen a few other YouTubers who have reviewed this who were able to get it down long enough to hold position, and then they basically just don't touch it for a while. They may have been more lucky than I am. These are made by hand, so each one's going to be different. Mine, unfortunately, doesn't want to stay in place. It keeps popping up, so in a lot of these pics you're going to see him looking a little funny in the hat. I've tried to hide it as best as I can, but it is an issue. I think that over time, maybe the hat will wear out a little bit more and it won't be as constricting on his head, and then it'll sit better, but I don't know. So that's just something to be aware of. Not much you can do about it. If you do get this figure, just be kind of warned. You're going to need to really be careful with that hat. It's very finicky, and make sure that when you're playing with that hat to get it on his head, you're doing it someplace with like a nice big spacious table, because his glasses are going to go flying, weapons will go flying. It can be a little bit of a mess. But once you do get them all assembled, it does look really great. I wish that he maybe fit in a little bit better with some other figures out there, because yeah, unfortunately he is like a little bit smaller than your average 6-inch guy. So he is going to look a little bit puny, but he's meant to be, again, more realistic. So when it comes to Leon the Killer, it's a little bit more of a give and take. And you're probably going to have to make a few concessions to really feel comfortable putting him into your collection. Now, if you're somebody who already has a bunch of designer figures, it's not going to be as big of a deal. For me, it's a first timer, so I'm still kind of getting used to these things. I'm happy with it overall. There's just a few things that you just got to be a little careful with. Now, I'm going to have some links to hopefully places you can find him, but keep in mind this figure is not going to last. He's not going to be around very long, so if you want him, you got to scoop him up fast, because chances are eBay is going to be one of the few places you can get him in a year from now, and those prices aren't going to be cheap. So that's our look at Leon the Killer, coming to us from Magic Toys via 5K Toys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and let me know whether or not you believe he's a solid investment to make in your own figure collection. So I'm Matthew, this has been Nerd News Today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys later. More figure reviews, statue reviews, and everything else we do here on the channel.